Hey, good morning, Rick.
Hey, Brad, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm not too bad at all.
Well,
It's a
that's
nice
great.
Saturday, relaxing day. It's
That's
good.
right.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good seeing you again.
Yeah, it's good seeing you too.
I'm glad that we finally were able to connect.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's a challenge.
Yes, I know. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rick, for joining the author's table today.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course. So you ready to begin?
I sure am.
All right. So let's talk about how you began to write, and then what was your motivation?
Well, it's funny for me. It started out with my kids. I have four kids, and so I would tell them stories when they were little, and a lot
Hmm.
of times they were the main characters.
Yeah.
So I would have some kind of story with one of the kids in the story, and it would try to make them laugh, and they like to be scared, so some of the stories would have a little scary twist at the end or something like that. Not too much for a little kid, but
Sure.
as they got older, the stories could get scarier, and at
So,
some point when they were teenagers, I thought, well, I'm going to write a novel. And after all the practice with the little kids stories, the picture book kind of stories,
they
um,
progressed.
yeah, it progressed to a full length novel.
That's
So
awesome.
what I did was I read a lot of Agatha Christie novels and some Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes novels,
Oh yeah.
and I decided I'd wanted to do a mystery. So that's why I read a couple of those. And my wife has a whole bunch of old Nancy Drew books. So I
Oh
read
yeah.
read Nancy Drew books and Hardy Boys,
Oh yeah.
just to get the feel for the mystery genre from some of these experts. And so that's what I did. And then for the setting, I just thought I like the setting in Upper Michigan. We have a cabin on a lake up there,
Hmm.
and the setting in the winter is spectacular. And I thought, well, let's do a murder mystery in the winter up near the Canadian border.
Oh wow.
So that was the setting,
Oh
and
yeah.
the whole story came about that.
Yeah.
So
Just
that was the first novel.
yeah. Just the whole atmosphere of that too is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So really, that's another character. The
Yeah.
setting,
Oh
the
yeah.
cabin and the lake and the snow and all that. That was like another character to me.
It's almost like an Alfred Hitchcock kind of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
awesome. Now, Rick,
yeah.
are you a self publisher or do you have a publisher?
No, I had found a publisher. It was a kind of an interesting story. I'd been sending out query letters to different publishing companies,
Hmm.
and one of the publishers I contacted said, "I'm not doing any fiction right now, but I know a guy that would really be interested in this. He does a lot of Michigan stories, Michigan
Mm.
fiction, nonfiction." And so I contacted him, and sure enough, he published it. So it was White Feather Press up in Michigan.
The
So they
time,
published my first one, and then he's published all my other ones since
the
then.
timing is key, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah, and you just happen to get the right person that happens to know somebody, and they're
Absolutely.
they're doing what you're looking for.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history, exactly.
Okay. Now you have four books or novels.
That's right, 4 novels published right now.
And your first one is called Secrets in the Ice.
That's right. That
Uh,
was the one that's set up in Upper Michigan in the winter.
Now, can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure. So, it started out as a vacation story. I was thinking of me and my wife going on vacation up there in the winter, and, just to show off the scenery and what it's like up there. But then the idea of doing the mystery came in as well. So we set up a murder mystery
Oh, wow.
up there. So they find a body frozen under the frozen lake, and then the
That,
two
that,
people, the husband wife team, just happened to be there,
mm,
and of course they're looked at suspiciously because they're the newcomers, and they want to try to solve it, and then another body is found, and so I try to piece in some ways to make it a fun story, because this the husband and wife team on vacation,
oh,
and then
sure.
all these horrible things being found as well.
That's that
So
where like the Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys came about.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, it hadn't got to the Edgar Allan Poe or
Oh
Stephen
yeah,
King or Alfred Hitchcock yet at this
those are a
point.
little deep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
But for my second novel, that's what I did.
and actually, that was now the second one is it's called Deadly Silent. Is that correct?
Deathly Silent,
Yes,
that's
yes.
right, yeah.
And that's a suspense novel.
Yeah, so that's one where I had read about, I don't know, half a dozen to a dozen Edgar Allan Poe short stories beforehand, just to get in the
Mm-hmm.
mindset for it,
Oh yeah.
and then that's, well, it's funny because some friends of mine had told me, "Oh, well, your first novel was kind of tame, it wasn't really
Mm.
scary or anything like that." So, oh,
You
well,
got
I
to get the
didn't
wheels
mean it to
turning.
be scary. Yeah, yeah, because I'd wanted just an Agatha Christie, Hardy Boys kind of murder mystery.
Sure.
So then this one, okay, well, I took up the challenge.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and really do a scary one then. So I read the Edgar Allan Poe stories and just to get the mindset right, and then I went in with the idea of writing. And so the
Okay.
second one is more of a creepy, really scary one.
Now how did you, or what is your process like of like switching gears like that? To just like from your first one to your second one. How do you get that mindset? Or
Well,
it's like let's say if you wrote a children's book and then you went
right.
to totally opposite. How do you switch? That mindset. What's your process of that?
I don't know that there really is anything that I did, but I do plan things out. So
Okay.
what I do is I plan out the whole story in my head. I maybe do a spreadsheet and have 40 lines in there. So I have 40 different chapters. That's
Okay.
my target goal, where I estimate 40 different chapters. And then I just say, what kind of things do I want to have in the beginning, and then to the middle, and then the end, and I'll start filling in the spreadsheet
Hmm.
before I even start writing
Yeah.
anything. So I'm in the mindset already of writing the scary story. So I'm going to have, okay, what am I going to have that's going to be scary aspects to this story? And I'm going to fill out the spreadsheet until I got some kind of really full story there. And then I'll sit down and okay, I'm going to write chapter 1 today. Or maybe I'm going to write the last chapter today.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I'm going to write a middle chapter that I wanted to cover this. I'm interested in this specific scary topic. I'm going to write this chapter today. And it's all self-contained. So each of my chapters are self-contained stories. So I can sit down and write any chapter that I want.
They could
Um,
they could almost be like branched off into their own little entity, couldn't they?
exactly, like it's a scene 1,
Yes.
scene 2, and it's completely, and I can rearrange it as needed. And sometimes I've found that, oh, I didn't really cover this very well. I need to move this back a little bit and have an intro to lead into this, so I can rearrange the chapters in the spreadsheet a little bit,
Sure.
and then it works out pretty good.
It's almost like a director, how they can sort of visualize the scenes and so on.
It is,
That's pretty
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I like that director role or the producer role, to be able to sit back and plan the whole thing out, and
Someday, Rick.
there you go.
That's
Looking
awesome.
forward to that.
That's right, absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
and then your third novel, and that was a romantic comedy called Escape from His Past.
Well, that one came about because the second novel was a little too creepy for my wife. She said, "No, this thing kept me up at night, so I
Yeah,
really would rather have something more her type."
sure,
So I did a
sure.
romantic comedy that she would like,
That's
and so
cool.
that's where that came about.
That's
And,
awesome.
that's the same thing, it's a completely different mind change from an
Yes.
Edgar Allan Poe story to a Nicholas Sparks Notebook story or whatever,
Be like a dark humor.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now the last novel is that one's called A High Price to Pay, and
That's right.
that's about the American Civil War.
That's the Civil War story, right.
Which
And that's a historical fiction, so I based it all on real events. So I
mm-hmm.
mapped it out like 1861 and 1865. That's the period that it's in. So I figured, okay, and then I tried to fit in real historical things that my grandmother used to tell me and my mom about what their family was doing, what our family was doing in the Civil War. So she
Mm,
had all kinds of stories. And sure enough, we look these stories up and we get the records of our ancestors. And
mm.
sure enough, this guy was at Gettysburg. He marched across the field with the North Carolina troops at Gettysburg. And so I
Oh my
thought, oh, I've
gosh.
got to have that in the story. And
Absolutely.
then this one, my other great grandfather, I think, he was a deserter. He deserted the army and came home and hid in a haystack, and my grandmother's grandmother used to go out and feed him,
Oh
bring food
man.
to him hiding in the haystack, and she described some of the things about him, and so I had to have that in the story. And so I found a
Absolutely.
whole bunch of things on my wife's side and my side, and I combined it into one story.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's the same characters, but it's really based on multiple characters throughout the family on my side and my wife's side.
It's almost like you sort of did both the book and like a family tree.
Exactly, it is, it
That
is, so
that
you
is
get to see
awesome.
it, yeah, and unfortunately, my grandmother passed away before it was published, so
Mm.
she didn't get to see the final product. I think she would have really enjoyed seeing it come to life like
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah, but she was fascinated telling us the stories when we were growing up, and it's interesting because her grandmother lived with her. Her grandmother that was born in 1842 lived with her when she was a teenager, and so she heard the stories firsthand from her grandmother,
Wow.
and so it was just really satisfying for me to be able to put this together and publish it, even though she didn't get to see the final product.
Right.
It was just it's satisfying to me that it came together and,
Yeah,
we had that
makes you
family
feel
history.
good though, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
And not just you, but the family too, that you
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
did this. I can definitely see that as a movie.
Yeah, yeah, I would love to be able to do it as a movie. It would be great.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Now from all your books, was there? I know there was a connection with all of them. Is right? Somehow you intertwined your.
Well, what's interesting is a lot of my character, me, is in each one of these stories,
Mm-hmm.
and so even though each story is a completely different story, it's a lot of it's the same character, this
You.
how I would be in that situation.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so and some of it is my wife, I tried to put how my wife would be in this situation. So even in book 1, Secrets in the Ice, the mystery, I've got some of my wife character in there and then some of my character in there. The second one, even though it's a real creepy one, there's some of my character in there. Even though I wouldn't do the kind of stuff that the main
Right.
character does,
Yeah.
it's some of the thoughts that he's having are the thoughts that I would have had, and then she's a character in the story also, and so I pulled hers out. And even in the Civil War story, the main character and another main character in the story is me and my wife. I tried to put different aspects of both of us in those characters, and
That's really
so
cool though.
yeah,
That's
so there is some continuity that way. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Now, now, like with like overall, do you have like an all-time best author that you really like to like connect with somehow?
Oh, my the first novel that I can remember reading, my 6th grade teacher
Mm-hmm.
gave me Call of the Wild by Jack London,
Mm-hmm.
and that writing really touched me. I'm a very young, impressionable 6th grader, and you read this emotional story about this dog and the owner and what the dog went through. So that reached me pretty significantly. But there's some other ones as well too. I know, um, Ted Decker. I don't know if you've heard of Ted Decker. He's a pretty current author, and, I've done some Dean Koontz books and some James Patterson books, and they're very fast-paced books. I like the way that they're very fast-paced. They're short chapters, so you don't have to read a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
They're very short, straight to the point, and I really like the emotion that they can draw out of the reader. I don't like some of the profanity that Patterson and Gene Kuntz uses, but Ted Decker is really good. He really doesn't use the profanity like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of Nicholas Sparks's book actually, and he likes to center in North Carolina and show some North Carolina scenery. His first book was really very poorly written, The Notebook. I don't know if you've ever read The Notebook, but it is a terrible book. It's just you can tell that it's his first novel, but he's improved significantly since then. He's learned how to really do each chapter and the dialogue correctly. But that first book, I was reading it and I'm thinking, wow, he's really made a lot of mistakes in this book. But he improved, and I like some of his later books. Um,
now, do you see like your novels? Is there like can you continue those, or is it?
actually, I'm doing that. A
Oh.
lot of people have asked me for a sequel for the first novel, The Secrets in
Mm-hmm.
the Ice, and I haven't done it. I had so many other ideas that I wanted to do first. I had the Deathly Silent, I had the Escape from His Past, and the historical fiction one. I really wanted to get those out, but now I'm thinking, okay, I think I will do a sequel to the first one. Not based in Upper Michigan, but what I'm doing is I'm putting together a story with the same 2 characters, the same
Okay.
main characters from the
Mm-hmm.
first novel, but they're gonna go down to Louisiana and Nova Scotia. They're gonna be working on I'm gonna be working on some other family history where
Oh
my
wow,
wife's family,
awesome.
they settled in Nova Scotia in the 1600s, 1700s, but then they were deported out by the British. So her ancestors were French there, and the British came in and kicked them all out. and deported them down to they deported them back to Europe or to New England. Most of hers went down to Louisiana. So the Acadians became the Cajuns.
Oh wow.
So I'm calling it something like the Lost Gold of Acadia or Cajun Gold or something like that. And it's going to be a murder mystery that they they come down to visit her family down in Louisiana and somehow get pulled into this murder mystery and historical with a lot of historical background as well.
Now,
So it's
now
going to be the same characters.
that's great.
Yeah.
Now, do you have, or does your wife have a lot of like her family history? That's
Yeah, that's one of the things we do in our spare time. We like to travel a lot and try to
hmm
find go back to the churches and the graveyards and whatever might still be there, their homesteads.
that's fantastic.
We try to do some of that research. We were planning to go to Nova Scotia this spring, and that didn't work out. So we're trying to do it in the fall. So we'll go up there, and because there's a lot of family history up there, where her French settlers got deported by my British my
Oh,
British settlers.
that's
Unfortunately,
great.
my British settlers came in and settled in Nova Scotia in the 1760s, 1770s, and
But
so my family kicked her out.
but and that's funny how then you guys connected, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Now I think that's wonderful, really, for everyone, really, to do history on their own family.
It's pretty fascinating, actually. Yeah, you see
Absolutely.
what makes up yourself. You're made up of all these different characters
That's
from the
right.
past,
That's
and
right.
they all culminate in you.
That's right. Now,
Yeah.
now, do you have any advice for an author that's just starting out? Like, what kind of guidance can you provide them?
Well, one thing is when you first start out, you've got to accept the fact that your baby could be ugly. It may not
Mm-hmm.
be very well. Your writing may not be very well at first, and you've
Mm-hmm.
got to be able to have tough, thick skin to put your stuff out in front of other writers that
Yes.
have been doing this longer than you,
Yes.
and let them critique it. And you need to be able to accept those critiques without getting insulted. A lot of times you think, "Oh, you're calling my baby ugly." Well, I'm not listening to you, but a lot of times when I first started, I thought it was great. I'm thinking, "Oh, I'm writing this story and it's really well written," but then you find out it's not really that well written.
Right.
So it's good to write and practice writing. And somebody told me the first million words really don't count.
Wow.
That's just practice.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
by the time you've gone through the first million words, you've honed your craft a little bit. You've fixed the dialogue problems that you've had before. You've fixed your other problems with different aspects, point of
Mm-hmm.
view and such. And then it's still good, even once you feel pretty confident, it's still good to let somebody critique it and see if they have any concerns or can point out problems.
Yes.
So that's one of the things I would say. And read up on. There's a lot of authors that have done books themselves on how to write
Mm-hmm.
properly, and it's good to just study that and just spend a lot of time trying to better yourself as a writer,
That's
and
correct.
it'll pay off. And just don't give up. Just keep working on it,
Per-
and realize you're getting better and better. I know I
that's
compare my first novel, and I look and think, oh man, I should have changed some of this here. I should have done this differently. And I made those corrections in the second novel. The second novel, I didn't make those same mistakes. Same with the third novel. By the time I got to the third novel, it's like, oh no, I should have done that differently in the previous novels. And so they're getting better and better as I'm going
yeah.
along.
S-
Yeah.
So it'd be a masterpiece at your fifth one, right?
That's right. That's
That's
right.
right.
It's got to be better. Yes, because of all the stuff that I've learned with the first four, I'm going to apply that to the next one.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel that writing is the same no matter what you're writing about, or does it actually change style wise, or is it?
Yeah. That's a good question. I really haven't noticed it that much, but I think you are going to be writing differently if you're writing a scary Edgar Allan Poe story than if you're writing a romantic comedy.
Yes.
You've got a different mindset for sure. And
Yes.
so some of the things that you would write in with when you're trying to create a scary atmosphere, that's going to be completely different in the romantic comedy. You're trying to create a fun,
Right.
happy atmosphere, so you got to be careful that way.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
there are some differences, yeah.
So I guess that makes So you're becoming very well rounded off now, Rick. You know.
I did wanna do that. I did wanna go out
Yeah.
into the different areas, like
Yes.
the genres of the mystery, the suspense, the historical, the romantic. So I felt good about doing something different each
Yes.
time and, just try the different feel, write a historical, and that's very, very different from a modern day romantic
Right.
novel.
Do you,
So
do you think you'll ever write a children's book?
I would love to. I've actually got several of them that I have from my kids
Hmm.
when my kids were little,
Yes.
and I haven't been able to get them published. I would love to be able to do that, and I may do it just to publish it myself as
Sure.
well.
Sure.
Just have to get an illustrator because 'cause I've got the right now, the ones I have are picture books for the little kids. So
Okay.
I've got those, and I would really like to get those published, and I've got an idea for a kid's story, like a young adult reader and maybe a preteen or an early teen reader,
Yes.
and I would love to be able to do that one. I haven't fleshed it all out yet, but I've got the ideas for the story in my head.
You need to bring those
And
out of the archives, Rick.
I would love to, I would love to, yeah. If
That's
if I had
awesome.
more time, I could do both the new one that I'm working on, the Acadian one,
Mm-hmm.
do the other one as well, but it just takes a lot of time, so
Oh, absolutely.
it's in the
Yeah.
queue, though. I would
That's
love to be able to publish the young adult reader book too.
that's
I
awesome.
think it
That's
would be fun, yeah.
yeah.
But
Now,
I've also got the little kid books too, the picture books. I really would like to do those someday as well.
so you probably have like a half a dozen books on the back burner right now, don't you?
Yes, I do. I've got a dozen children's books right now. I've got the
Oh
young
my
adult
gosh.
reader in the back. I've got a I was actually thinking about writing a Vietnam story too as well,
Oh
something
wow.
about a because my uncle was in Vietnam and he told us some stories about that, and I really wanted to put that together in a story, and, just a story about a guy that goes off to Vietnam and comes back, and his whole world has changed because of what he's been through in
Absolutely.
just 1 year. He was only
Yeah.
out there for 1 year, and, how that can change your life and how the attitude of the people, when he got back to the US, they were spitting on him and throwing things at him, and,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't wanna go out there. He was drafted and sent over there, and so I wanted to put that into a story and show how finally, 20 years after that, he's accepted, and now they're celebrating veterans, Vietnam veterans even, and he got to see that,
Yes.
from being spit on and yelled at, and then they're celebrating Vietnam veterans, 20 years later,
Yeah.
and they realize, he didn't wanna go out there, he was sent out there.
That's right.
So I have that idea as well, but that's in the back burner as well, so
But I think, as a writer too, is, you have a gift to put that out.
yeah, yeah, I feel
It's
like I do. I feel like
yeah.
somehow I don't know why I have this gift of ideas and being able to put it on paper, but I really feel like I need to do that.
That's awesome. I think you
Yeah,
should, and
yeah,
I'd definitely love to see those too.
yeah, I appreciate that.
Of course.
I definitely like to keep working on them.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep,
And now, Rick, you have a website.
I do. It's, rickjangraw.com.
Okay.
Yep, HTTPS, rickjangraw.com,
S-
and I've got all my stories on there and, some backgrounds, some interviews that I've had before in the past, those are on there as well.
Okay, fantastic.
Yep.
And now, when is your next event?
I'm thinking of probably doing the one in November, the Authors for Authors
Yes.
at the O'Galley.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I haven't heard anything about it, but I'd like to sign up for that as soon as that gets going. I really would like to do that. I enjoy the people that I see there. Some of it's the same people I see every year. Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Rick, I thank you so much for taking the time today to talk about you and your books, and
Well, I
really
appreciate
appreciate,
it.
of course,
Yeah.
and
I appreciate the invitation and just the chance to reminisce a little bit and talk about
absolutely,
some of these stories. And
yes.
so, do you have a new one coming out in the fall also,
No,
or anytime
I
soon?
no, I still have the four.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay.
things that come and go though, but
Yeah.
nothing in stone yet.
Yeah, I know the
No.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yep.
But again, Rick, I thank you so much, and it's
Oh,
good
sure.
seeing you,
Yep.
and I hope to see you in November.
Yep, definitely, definitely. I'll look for you too.
All right, Rick. You
Yeah,
have a
good to see you
wonderful
again.
day. You too.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Rick.
Yep.